Hello, and welcome to the Southcoast Artists Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The Southcoast Artists Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere. Learn more at heavenlyspirits.com.
Hey, this is Ron Fortier with another episode of the In Focus podcast brought to you by the South Coast Artists Index. And today, all the way over from Fall River. And I say that because I remember the days when people would say, I've got to go to Fall River. You know, they would have to pack a lunch. It's the same thing on that side. But without further ado, let's move on. And this is another episode being sponsored in part by the great folks at Heavenly Spirits Imports. And today's guest got a really great organization, and we're going to let you tell him, and we're going to let him tell you all about it. Sir, could you please introduce yourself and spell your name?
My name is Todd Salpietro. It's T-O-D-D. Last name is Salpietro, S-A-L-P-I-E-T-R-O.
Okay. Just wondering if a lot of times people think that your middle name is Sal.
I've been called Sal, Sally, whatever you can come up with all my life. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah. No, it's funny because that's one of the reasons why I also ask people to spell their names and such, because again, people just take things oddly, you know, it's just the way it goes. Tell us all about your organization, the Arts Academy in Fall River. Is that the correct name for it?
It's Fall River Arts Academy.
Okay.
Okay. So we've been open for 25 years. We've grown quite a bit over the last, 5 or 6 years since we rebranded from TJ's Music to Fall River Arts Academy. Mm-hmm. And we are the largest independently owned music school in the South Coast. We're right now currently teaching over 550 students a week. We offer private and group lessons in most of the popular instruments, to include piano, guitar, voice, violin, drums, bass, clarinet, sax, flute, and the ukulele, all in one location.
Wow, that's a lot. So how did it all start?
We want to go way back, 25 years ago?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it. So
we're gonna be 25 years into the future, so basically it'll be 50 years back.
Exactly. So I'm coming up on my birth date here. I'm going to be 50 years old in May. Okay, so this is bringing me back to the time that I was 25 years old. I played music in a lot of local bands, and I studied hard, and drums was my main instrument. Been playing, right along ever since. And I always had a thing for business, and I thought that it would be really fun to open a business. And, 25 years later, I envy all the people who have successful businesses, because it's not an easy task to take on, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I loved it, and my passion far exceeded, the level of work. So, I opened up as a music store, at the time, just selling drums as a drum store. And you learn, you live and learn, and you see what works good for your business. And I knew that expanding into a full line music store would be best for Fall River. And so we started to take on guitars, drums, and guitars along with drums, and pro audio, DJ gear, and lighting and stuff. And it really worked out well for us over the years. It was a struggle, but we made it work. Part of one department that we always had a main focus on was music lessons. And when I first started, it was just drum lessons. And sometime in the midst of TJ's music and building up to the Fall River Arts Academy idea, I was teaching privately 75 private music lessons a week, just myself. And it was actually it's kind of a cool, fun story. I would literally be running the music retail shop and teaching lessons out of the back room at the same time. So I'd be teaching lessons, and I get students working on something, go out and sell a guitar, come back, and I knew that was only going to go for so long. And at that point, my wife Tammy started to work with me. I'm going back now to probably about maybe 15 years ago, maybe 2009-ish, some 2007, 2009. And that's when things really, really started to turn around for me. I had somebody on the front line over there taking care of all the retail, and somebody to sell the lessons for me. And then, also so I could just focus on my lesson program. And we started to hire teachers, and I had some lesson rooms built in the basement that we still use today. They're a lot better now than they were, 15, 20 years ago. But we grew the program, and we got real serious about it. It was TJ's music. We had 100 students, and we started to get really serious about the program. And it was ever since about maybe 2017 till today, we have grown from 100 students to 550 students.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, let me ask you a question. Did your increase in business somehow coincide with a decrease in the availability of music programs in schools?
I don't think that we can say that that's what it was. I think more or less some of the economic downturns in the most recent maybe 20 years, right? The fall of the housing market.
Right. Depending on what sector you worked in. Like I was a marketing director for a very large lumber yard, and we got hit first in 2007. And that just kept going like a slinky going down the stairs slowly, one at a time. I think that lasted until 2000. Shit, it lasted a long time, about 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny you said that, because my wife came out of a business where she was delivering wood for Mazzone Lumber, and fantastic organization. But she knew I needed the help, and she came over with us. But at the time, it was right around that time when she started working for us was the fall of the housing market. And I remember saying to her all the time during this time, I was like, all these guys are coming in, you see the big pickup truck outside. They're coming in with construction boots on, with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, hanging out and saying, I'm going to buy a guitar and get into music lessons. This is the only time I've had time to myself. And so they ended up, taking advantage of that time and signing up for guitar or drums or whatever it would be. So we find that, art and music really can thrive in a bad economy. And that's, that just goes to show and prove the power of art and music.
Yeah, I had a discussion on another podcast yesterday. I came up with a term. I mean, it's not like original to me, but the pandemic paradox.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen so many times during the pandemic, which is another imposition, business imposition, like a recession, or the Great Recession they called it, which is really another depression that we had. Nothing like.
Yeah.
My father endured in the 30s.
Oh.
But the weird thing is that so many artists who are unrepresented, never sold a piece of work through a gallery, all of a sudden we're getting people online saying, hey, I saw your work on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to talk to you about this piece. And they're like, is this a scam? And they vetted it out, and they were doing quite well, getting commissions and a bunch of other things. On the other side, on the flip side of the coin, just the people who were represented by galleries were saying, I got nothing. This is craziness. I mean, because the gallery shut down and all of their normal channels of business were interrupted. The one segment that did suffer quite a bit were all the buskers, all the musicians. They had no venues to perform at. and that was tough. So getting into that from your point of view a little bit more from the lesson side of thing, is it because of this self, actualization? People just had that time to really, oh, what the hell, I've been waiting a long time to do this. This is really where my heart's always been, but got to make a living, but can't do it now.
It there was nothing beautiful about the pandemic, right? So it was very, very scary, and I'm sure everybody has the same scary thought. It was almost like when the Twin Towers went down. It was like you just had that sense of vulnerability to what was going on. But I stayed focused, and we were running about somewhere close to 400 students at the time. And I remember I think Governor Baker was going to come in, go on TV and tell everybody we were shut down in Massachusetts on a Monday. And I think it was like Thursday before that, I ran up to Best Buy, I bought 8 tablets. I put Zoom on all the tablets. I came home, set all that up, and I picked up the phone and I called 400 parents. And I had conversations with every single one of them. The first thing was survival, was to save the business, and to ask them if it was okay for the 2 weeks that it was supposed to be, that we teach your kids on Zoom for 2 weeks. And about 95% of them were totally fine with it. Some of them just, for whatever reason, had little kids, or just wasn't going to be a good fit for the kids. And so we, as we went by, it was going to be another 2 weeks. So some students quit, and then it's going to be another month or two. A lot of students quit. So long story short, we were down 100 students by the end of 2020, I believe it was. And, but during the whole time, during the whole time of the pandemic, we were offering free online classes. We would have all of our teachers who didn't have a class, they were offered that, we would definitely pay you for the spot, but rather than having no student and not get paid, why don't you just go and do a Zoom lesson? And they did, and they loved us for it, man. We kept the fire burning, and so we were having attendances of like 290 people on Zoom doing a guitar lesson. It was amazing. We had voice lessons. We had ukulele lessons. I was doing some drum lessons. A couple of other drum instructors were doing drum lessons. So we came together and we gave and gave and gave. We gave out guitars. We gave out keyboards, a couple of drum kits, because we knew that this is what these people needed. We couldn't take the music lessons away from the kids. And then, now it built something that we didn't see coming, is that now all the parents wanted to do it too, because they saw the kids having so much fun in this half-hour session once a week on their Zoom tablet in their bedroom, and everybody was home. So why not learn an instrument? And I think, I can say this, I have a 7-year-old son, and I was having just a bit of a conversation with him just yesterday about how powerful music is. In any conversation you ever get into with a group of people, there's going to be one person in that group who has tried a musical instrument at one point in their life. They may not do it now, but they could be so close to picking it up and doing it again. And there isn't one person that you can talk to that says, I tried a musical instrument and I hated it. No one says that. Everyone says, I loved it, I wasn't very good at it and I lost the interest. So we were gaining a lot of steam with parents jumping on board, a lot of referrals. Our referrals were up through the roof at that time, because now cousins and sisters and siblings and, they were all signing up for lessons. So I will always say that anytime that we're suffering a difficult economy, our business always picks up. I think people, they turn to music, and, the world did need music at that time.
When you were talking, I was wondering about the depression in comparison to all of this. There were people who were suffering badly. They were picking up coal that fell off the trains down by the tracks to stay warm during the winter. There were soup lines, bread lines. But there were also the people who, well, in my family's case, it was one of the uncles made out like a bandit. He bought property because he had money, and he bought blocks and blocks and blocks of property. So he did well. And there was a middle class that was kind of solid through this whole thing. It was the lower classes that really, really got hit hard. But I'm curious as to how that affected the sale of sheet music back in those days
Mm.
and the sale of player piano rolls, because that was pretty much like the heyday, of that stuff. And when you're looking at that, what happened then and what happened now during the pandemic, that's really got to say something about people in general.
Yeah. Again, I can't speak anything of sheet music sales back in that day, but I
Yeah.
can imagine, I can definitely imagine that they would have been through the roof because so many bands were playing, so many bands were playing music. Maybe they weren't playing out. So we have to think of that because our bands, today, the bands that were suffering because of the pandemic and they couldn't go out and play out, they didn't really have an opportunity to get together and play. So they might have been going through some of that
Mhm.
um, at that time. But piano rolls, I'm not really sure about. But I know that it must have been good for instrument sales with people having to stay home and spend that time. I've never witnessed anything like this in my entire life. I worked 7 days a week since I was a child, and I never had an opportunity to not work, and it was super weird. And then you started to think about, what are you going to do with your time, you know? And I did. I to be honest with you, I am like a hacking piano player. I can chunk some chords and stuff, and I'm terrible to listen to. I can't entertain anybody on the piano, but I started playing it during the pandemic, and I put a lot of hours in and had some fun, and but and I'm assuming that people picked up hobbies. It might not have been music. It might have been something totally different. People picked up hobbies, and I'm glad for that. People get to see the other side of themselves.
Well, Michael's art supplies and craft supplies, the Michael chain. I mean, their numbers went through the roof, and they took advantage of it. They knew that money was tight in some cases, and sale after sale after sale. It's like, my God, it never stops. You buy something and they give you another discount. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, that kind of thing. And then there's this, what they call the great regression or the great resignation. That's what it is, the great resignation. And I've mentioned this before in conversation, where especially with younger couples with children, school-age children, both of them working, it must have been a drop jaw moment when whoever does the family finances must have said, honey, I don't get this at all. Okay. You're not working anymore. You've been home watching the kids. And I'm looking at our numbers. And for some reason, we have, I don't know, name a number, 75, 80, $250 a month that we don't normally have. And then they started to figure it out. The other person was working to pay other people to watch their children so that they could work, and paying other people so that their dog had a place to go to. And it must have been like a palm, in the forehead moment, going, oh my God, what the heck have we done? What have we been doing? We've been insane all this time.
Yeah.
They just discovered, without getting corny, the meaning of life. And I'm going to not, just leave that hanging in the air, but I'm going to go to ukuleles, because before the pandemic, that came out of nowhere, which is bizarre as all heck. And I'm curious, did somebody even light another rocket, on its tail to make that even go further up than before?
I believe I want to piggyback on something that you said, and then I'll jump into the
All right.
ukulele subject. So, part of the pandemic, and listen, 100 students withdrew from our 400 student roster. That is 25% of our business just disappeared. Okay.
Mhm.
So we were doing everything in our power. We were giving free lessons. Not only that, we were offering to pay for lessons for students for a period of time, 3 or 4 months, just to keep them on board. And, we didn't want to see any students who were really enjoying lessons and benefiting from it have to leave lessons because mom lost a job or dad lost a job and they just couldn't make ends meet. But how popular that was at that time. Just picture going to work and them telling you, listen, we can't keep you on, and or we have to dock your pay 25% because that was a thing. So we had always had a few students that we would help out here and there along the line, but at that point was a tremendous amount of students that we were helping out. But you know what? We never shied away from it. We always thought it was so important to do. And in the long run, a lot of those students, they thanked us for it and still with us today. They got the parents got themselves back on their feet and they're with us today. I even started a little fund um, on Facebook for this. I was just kind of raising money to help kids out um, and pay for their music lessons. For one, it would keep the student, taking the music lessons, and it would also keep the teacher employed. So it was a win-win for everybody. And I had many friends of mine, different organizations, reach out to us and donate some large sums of money that we've been just continuously, helping our students out with. So that whole thing about the parents and the finances and everything, it's a real thing. And when you own a business like mine, and you're wondering, you're trying to keep your numbers afloat and do everything you can to keep your head above water, and then you have all these people going through this terrible stuff, financial situations. So we stepped up and we were able to help those people, and we're proud of that. We feel really good about it.
Yeah, there's just so many, I'm waiting for somebody to come up with a production or a column or or a podcast, stories from the pandemic, because
Yeah,
there's more of these feel good. I can't believe I got by. Oh my gosh, why didn't I ever pay attention to this before? It just goes on,
yeah,
and it's phenomenal. So the ukulele thing,
yeah,
which is interesting because when I was a kid, there was this little resurgence of in Hawaiian music,
mm,
and a lot of it was due in part because of Bill Bing Crosby and the road shows, and Brazil and Brazilian music was very hot in the 50s and 60s, and Hawaiian music was very hot. Plus the Hawaiian music, you could come up with these silly lyrics that sounded really dirty, but they really weren't. You
yeah.
know,
Fun.
there's nothing the censors could do about it, and then, the ukulele of all things is a Portuguese instrument, which a lot of people are like, no way. But I had a neighbor who is in his 90s. He started playing ukulele before the pandemic in his 80s. And I love what he said about it. He's retired. He was an engineer. And he said, yeah, it's fun. I've been learning something. I've always wanted to play an instrument. I never would have imagined playing the ukulele. He said, and what's even better is, we don't have individualized lessons. It's a group of us. And
Yeah,
then we go and play for the old people. That's what he said. We go and play for the old people. They go to all these homes and entertain the other people. I thought that was so great, you know. Um, so I mean, is it because it's small, easy to learn, inexpensive to purchase? What's that
I
all
mean,
about?
you're naming them all.
All,
And
all the above, yeah?
I think the biggest thing is, a pop song comes out with some ukulele in it, and everybody wants to play it. And then you get the whole wave of fish around on YouTube, go watch young kids playing ukulele, and you will be so blown away at what these kids are doing. I mean, some of these kids are like 10, 11, 12.
Mhm.
They're, playing and singing. Some of them are using loopers and they're putting like a little beat track, some
Mhm.
keyboards, synths, and they're playing like Ed Sheeran tunes and dance songs, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things with it, and it's just really awesome. And the talent level is just through the roof with it. Um, I remember the band, and I can't put my finger on it. Like if you ask me what band, I remember the band Train came out with a song that had an intro with ukulele.
Mhm.
And I remember, I'm pretty sure the Jonas Brothers did something too. And I'm going back maybe 10, 15 years ago when
Mhm.
that first explosion happened. And somebody's probably going to shoot me for saying what I'm saying right now. No, sir, it came from this. You don't know anything. And you're right. I don't know everything. But that's where, so I studied this a little bit just to kind of figure it out myself. And you're right about the Portuguese instrument. So I was blown away to hear the population in Hawaii, the Portuguese population in Hawaii. I was blown away. And did you know you could go and get a malasadish in Hawaii?
From the red truck. Yeah, my stepmother, her dream of the lifetime was when they retired that she wanted to go visit Hawaii, and they ended up getting a condo there, and I remember her calling me and saying, Ronnie, you can't believe it, I had malasadas. I said, did you get it from the little red truck? Yeah, how did you know? I said, I read about it someplace and I couldn't believe it, but then it makes sense because the Portuguese are went everywhere.
Man, they got around. They got around. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away to hear that. So I came back, and after I figured this out, I was talking to my repairman, Greg
Mhm.
Farris, fantastic guy, smart individual. We had a great conversation about all these Portuguese instruments and how they made it to these origins and everything. So really, really fun instrument. I'm probably good for about 100 of them a month. Anywhere from they sell anywhere from like $45 to, you can buy a ukulele for $1,000 now. I mean, they make
Yeah.
really nice high end pieces that are really solid and sound good.
Well, you said it's a really fun instrument. I'm wondering if that's the whole secret of it, that, you approach a guitar and either like you got visions of Andre Segovia or Carlos Santana or, and anything in between. But a ukulele, it's like, hey, I mean, I who really knows of any ukulele aficionado? I mean, who's the
There are
premier
some.
ukulele player? I know they are, but it's not like,
Yeah.
I don't think
Um,
it's a super serious kind of, or taken as a super serious instrument. Of course, now
it's a
I'll probably
great
get flack.
it's a great instrument for
Yeah.
accompaniment. Okay, and there are 1, 2, and 3 finger chords that are beautiful and easy to play. I'm a drummer. I hit things with sticks, and that's the extent of my musicianship.
Mhm.
Some will laugh, some get it, some don't. And I learned how to play, some certain chord progressions on the ukulele that are just fun, easy. I wasn't very good at it, but I think anybody can learn. And you know what? It's a small instrument. You can bring it anywhere. And I think, anyone who sings, having an instrument to sing along with a lot and accompany yourself with, I think it's a beautiful instrument for it. And like I said, it's small, it's tiny. You can bring it anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking right now of some of the Olive Guthrie, and that's kind of weird. All of a sudden, the sound just went whacked. But Arlo Guthrie and Ukulele Lady. If you like Ukulele Lady, and that's not a song that he came up with. I mean, they've been around like in his father's time, like 30s and 40s. But then on the other side, you've got, I think it was Joe Black, maybe the movie where um, is, and I never get his name, but his real full name is Israel Kama Wewe Ole, I think. This massive guy, looks like a sumo wrestler. I remember the first time a friend of mine sent me a CD thing, and I saw this massive 600-pound man floating in the pool. I was like, oh, this guy's pulling my leg. When I heard him sing, it was like, oh my God. And
Amazing.
who could beat Judy Garland with Somewhere Over the Rainbow could do it.
Yeah.
People just melt when they heard it.
Yeah.
And of course you've got the ukulele. And so I think it's the weirdness of the in the wonderfulness, because that's what the ukulele is. It's fun, it's serious, it's sad, it's happy, it's small, it's easy,
We
right?
have a lot of ukulele students at the academy.
What's the age range of the ukulele students?
We start at the age of 5 and up. You know, it's never too
Yeah.
late. And we have students. I don't know. I don't know what our youngest student is. I know we've got a 6 that I know of. I mean, again, it's an easy. The nylon strings. It's not going to hurt the fingers too hard. You know. Uh, it's just, again, it's fun, and it's less intimidating than, you know, a guitar,
Right.
or piano sitting, you know,
Yeah,
with
guitar's biggest thing is getting those calluses on the fingertips, and and it's less forgiving, that's for sure. You get a lot of
yeah,
buzzing if you know, take it from a guy who didn't pursue it, because you know, I tried, and God bless my music teacher. He was the most patient man in the world. But I'm also wondering about grandkids playing with their grandparents or with their parents, and it's got to be that, you know, because I still remember growing up as a kid, when guitar was, this is even like pre-Beatles,
yeah,
um, acoustic guitars. There's one of the neighbors where all the guys played guitar, and they would sit around and do like those old standards, you know, Blue Moon, and you know, uh, I'm blanking out on all those standards now. I'll remember them afterwards when it's not important. But it was great because, um, well, we had 3 channels of television. People weren't glued to the set constantly. You didn't have 24 hours worth of programming. And it was another way for people to commiserate. It was another way of people to get together and just have a little bit of fun, you
mm.
know? So you're right about the music bringing people together. What's what's in the future for you? What do you think? After you learned all of this, after you thought, hey, you know, I'm in a good groove. It took me all this time to get to this spot. And then, oh no, the pandemic. And then, hey, wait, you know, so it's been an emotional roller coaster, I guess.
To say the least.
Yeah.
So we are, you know, we're, you know, for the students, we are doing destination recitals. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for the students, December 1st, 2019, we played Carnegie Hall. So I took a group of 25 students to perform down at Carnegie Hall. It was amazing. It was everything you could imagine. It was super, just unbelievable. Students got to, you know, see what it's like to play the big stage. I mean, that's probably one of the most prestigious stages to play on in the world, and it was amazing. So we were trying to bounce back the next year, and then we got shut down. So we're picking it back up with our next destination recital, which is going to be in 2 weeks, April 7th. Our students are going to be performing at the Graceland Guest House Theater, and that's in Memphis, Tennessee, at the Elvis's home. Um, we have 23 students who are going to be performing at this show. And then from there we have, I haven't really made the announcement yet, but it's coming up. We're going to be doing a second Carnegie show in February 2023. So that's coming up. As far as, you know, the academy, and you know, I think the main focus right now is to just, you know, stay focused, stay the course, and to make sure that nothing crazy is going to happen in the near future. I mean, this is the world we live in right now, you know, and as a business owner, I don't think it's wise to make crazy decisions, but we would love to open up another location in another town, you know. Um, we, you know, the business is solid, and we have a great model. Students love it. We have, you know, 100 5-star Google reviews, and you know, it's time, you know. But right now, the landscape of the world, I just want to tread lightly on, and you know, just first of all, hope everybody's going to be okay, you know.
Mhm.
and then after that, hopefully, that will be our next move.
Are there any old, I think it was Bedford Piano. I think it was Bedford Street or a place on Bedford Street. Are there any of the old time, they had to have been in business since World War II or even, earlier than that. Are there any of them still left in Fall River?
No, no. So at my location, I ended up moving into renting, but then purchasing the building
Hmm.
that Al Raynone's Modern Music was in. Now
Hmm.
that was a music store for 50, 60 years. I did find a picture of Al Raynone's Modern Music. I can't really date it, but the cars that were in the picture are all 50s cars.
Hmm.
So it's sometime maybe in the late 50s that I know that they were there. And so we're in that location now. The other old time music store that I knew of was Sam Hall's. And Sam Hall, he was a very prominent man. He was very smart, well dressed, very respected. My dad played in 50s and 60s, 50s, mostly 50s rock bands. He played drums, and they got all their equipment from Sam Hall, back in the day, and he had all the right stuff. And somebody posted this is really, really cool Facebook page floating around in Fall River. It's I'm not going to think of the name of it, but they post all these awesome old pictures of Fall River, all the awesome old businesses and buildings and that are not even there anymore. And I somebody posted a picture of Sam Hall on that site in his music store, and I was like, this is the man right here, right? So generations later, we're still respecting this guy. But no, I don't know of any other music stores in Fall River.
Right. There was the Music Mansion that was on Rodman. I think it was on a corner where Robert's House of Formals, whatever, was across the way from there. And various, because in this area, I, I I I was once married to someone from Fall River, but on this side of the world, in New Bedford, there were a bunch of them, and I think only one of them is still limping along. I mean, you're a drummer, Chick Boucher, and Boucher,
Yeah,
Chick's
yeah,
House of Drums was huge, and there was
yeah,
another drummer. And they were all over the place. And of course, when the Beatles came in, Tony Pacheco was like the godfather of rock guitar. He taught everybody and
yeah.
everybody, Uh, and then there must have been a period of time where the older generations, retired out. Nobody was interested in taking over the business, and it seems to be a resurgence that you find in your 25-year span of business. Are you part of that resurgence? Are you still waiting for it to happen?
It's possible. It's possible I'm part of that resurgence. I mean, I think the beautiful thing about, business and living in America is you get to do whatever you want. And, and that's just what I did. I did exactly what I wanted to do. And I couldn't imagine myself doing anything different. And that is the reason why I did it. I think, you've got these individuals that have, you know, good business sense, and they're musicians. So when I started, I don't know if I'm part of that resurgence. I could be. However, I started my music store because it was something that I really, really wanted to do. I
Mhm.
felt strongly about this. This is the only thing that I want to do. And sadly, it took me till I was 25 to figure out what I wanted to do. But that was early enough at that point, and it worked out for us. But you know, I guess the same as construction companies. They start construction companies because that's what they want to do. They're passionate about building, and so I don't know if it's part of a resurgence. I know that we need music stores. I know it's sad. It's sad. The internet is killing a lot of that. With some of these Walmarts, so to speak, that we go up against, like Guitar
Mhm.
Centers and Sweetwater and Musician's Friend. They're all awesome. I mean,
Mhm.
how do you not think buying from them is a great experience. However, one thing that they can't give that we can give is that personal. You come into the shop, Ron, what's going on, man? How you played at the so and so this weekend? How'd the show go? Like they don't, some of the guitarists, they don't know anything about you. They don't know that you're playing a gig. You're just buying a product, and we're going to be able to service you because we know your gear. We know every piece of gear that you own, because you've either bought it from us or you've told us about it from time to time, or we worked on a piece of your gear or something.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time, going in to go get picks or guitar strings, when I was still attempting to be like everybody else and play guitar. But you go in there and everybody would always be looking at, at their favorite guitar, and they'd pick it up, and then somebody else would walk in, and before you know it, a little jam session would break out amongst the better of the musicians, obviously. And it was really a lot of camaraderie, and then it was a respect level too, because you'd probably go right after that and say, I can't believe it, I was just like messing around with the guitar and so walked in and we started jamming. I can't believe I was jamming with him.
Yeah.
And there's these little, plus in Fall River, the one thing I do know is that Lane Poor, who was the master pickup maker, was there. And that was I remember I did some advertising for him back in the 80s, and walking in the door, and there was a wall to the right-hand side that had every rock guitarist you could possibly ever imagine who signed their name on that wall in Sharpie. And I wonder if anybody either took a picture or cut it out or put it behind plexiglass or whatever, And then there's another thing too that I heard. Again, I'm not a musician. I'm not even a musicologist. I do like, I'm pretty eclectic, but I heard one of the biggest problems in music right now is the lack of drummers. You listen to, and they're saying that you listen to today's music, and it's just not there. It's just a beat, or whatever what's that thing called? It's not. It's a track.
Track, the loop.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things change every day, right? So like modern technology changed, and they came out with these really great things dating back to like maybe even before, but I'm going to use this drum machine, the Linn drum, where you had everyone, bands like Pink Floyd and Genesis and God, man, Hall & Oates, and I mean, just going back to me, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. That's the Linn drum. That was the most popular drum machine to come out. But what else was happening? They were using that as a backing track, but then the whole entire band would play. Phil Collins still played his drum tracks over the top of that. Another guy who pioneered that kind of stuff was Prince. He always had a drum rhythm being played mechanically, and then with live drums over the top of it. But then we start to get into like dance music, and where music studios had these producers who could just produce the music on their own. I mean, and I'm talking everything. Like there is no musician. Well, I don't want to take it away from the producer. He is a magical musician to be able to play all of those instruments on the computer. Right. That's amazing.
I mean, it's nothing like back when Barry Gordy was at Hitsville in Detroit and Motown, and discovered that they needed to have studio, session musicians, and the Funk Brothers were born, the greatest unknown band ever.
Yep.
And
studios had them.
Yeah.
Muscle Shoals had the Wrecking Crew.
Right.
And they played on everything. And here you thought it was your favorite guitar player or your favorite drummer. No, it was the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah. And then there's one thing too. I've been talking about this for years. I would really love to see it. A lot of people refer to it as the Fame School. But, if you can't have it in New Bedford, you can't have it in Fall River, you have it at least in a regional kind of a thing. We seriously need, and at one point I was thinking just, a regular senior high, but we need a junior and senior high school um, visual and performing arts high school, where it's like a vocational school for art, not mechanics.
And you know, it's
Um,
amazing. It's amazing that you say that. Where is the closest one? Do you know?
oh my goodness. I think Middleborough uh, attempted to do one, and I don't know if it's a private school.
Okay.
And Middleborough, Attleboro, for some reason, is ringing the bell in my head, and I don't know if they're public. They may have been like a private school, just like going to a Catholic school, being a private
Well,
school. But other than that, I can't tell you. And there's so many charter schools
yeah.
that have popped up, which is a whole other, you don't even get involved with discussions. That's like politics with some people. Um, but really, to have a school of visual and performing arts would be so incredibly important. I mean, not every kid is destined, to get a scholarship because of sports, even with show business, obviously, it's the same thing, but not every kid is destined to go to college, to go the regular track of everybody else. And not every kid is destined to go to a vocational school, and God bless those kids. I did a survey once where I found out that there were 22-year-olds. They're out of a vocational school 4 years. They've already got a brand new truck sitting in the driveway of the home they're paying a mortgage on in 4 years. And they love what
I
they
think the
do.
difference there is you go into school to learn to go to work.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of the kids go to college, same thing. They're learning
yeah.
to go to work, but I think that the ethic is different, you know. But no, I think you're right on this. And, maybe it's because they've done, I'm sure that some of these people, education boards or whatever has done some, research, and it might not be the right area for it, based on, how much people want it, and will pay for it, because I'm sure it's not going to be a public assisted thing, like a
And
public
why
school.
is that? I mean, why are the arts? I mean, I lived in Portugal for a year, and the experience there was like jaw dropping, because when they say, "Hey, so what do you do?" And like, "Oh, I'm an artist." Really? Have I seen your work before? Is it in any books and magazines that I've ever look at? I mean, are you hanging anywhere around here that I can go look at your work? Whereas over here, it's like, so what do you do? I'm an artist. Oh, yeah, yeah. You make any money doing that? It's so totally different. Their government also subsidized. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday. The first 10,000 euro that you make each year as an artist is tax free. So you can make up to $10,000 tax free, or
Wow.
10,000 euro. And you also have to register as a professional artist, which is really interesting as well. And there are
Yeah.
perks to that. Here, it's, you tell your mother, "Mom, I want to be a painter," and you break her heart. Well,
Yeah.
could you be a biker? Not to put
Yeah.
it on, you know.
Yeah. The family's broken now,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. I think more support, and, just what program gets cut every time for, it's the music programs in school. And, we're always the first to, but I don't know. I think there is enough interest in this immediate area if somebody wanted to put something together, for at least a high school, and, where it could be ran like a vocational school, where you would do music and you would do your studies,
Yeah.
and, music would be the sports.
Hey,
Or
let's not forget that a vocational school statistically places more kids in higher education than the comprehensive school, or what the
Yeah.
people call the normal school.
Hmm.
That's got to say something.
It stimulates the cognitive, highways, and just makes them better thinkers and problem solvers, and,
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. So I look, I love it. Why don't you do it? Why don't you open a school?
Well, believe me, if I had the the time, and I mean time, I mean I'm getting on there. I've got an art practice. I'm still trying to, it was put aside because bills had to be paid. And then I'm running the artist index, which is something that we thought was going to be like a fun kind of a thing that happened during the Great Recession. And then we realized, oh my God, there's like way more moving parts to this than we ever
Yeah.
imagined. I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to just, mention it enough times so somebody with enough deep pockets and more time than I've got would say, hey, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Because they're talking about STEAM and STEM, and they've had charter schools that are STEAM or STEM or both. And why not just have one, if it's got to be a charter school that's for visual and performing arts? There's an enormous
So I
amount of
taught
discipline. What's that?
I taught a music production class
Mhm.
that was partnered with Berklee College of Music, and where students could actually earn credits toward Berklee if they decided to go to Berklee. And it was Atlantis Charter School in Fall River, and we had an amazing class. It was amazing. The class happened right at my facility on the second
Mhm.
floor in our performance hall, and I was working with Prince Alexander. If you're not aware who he recorded the notorious B.I.G., Sean Puffy Combs, Mary J. Blige, all these people in that era, that one era.
Mhm.
And I mean, this guy was like, he's so amazing. Like, he has the ear, he knows exactly what to listen for. And he was somebody who I could confide with if, I was having if I had any questions or
Yeah.
about production and stuff. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun to do. Um, and and then they later on, ended up getting a teacher within their school to do it, which was better, a better situation for the students.
Right.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I think you're right. Like, they're doing the STEM thing, so why can't they do like something that's just like dedicated? You have some of these singers, they're into theater. They're singing in theater. It's just, I think there's a whole world out there for them.
There was either psychology or psychiatry. It must be psychology because I think psychiatry it's a
Yeah,
medical degree, but
yeah,
it was a psychology teacher at UMass Dartmouth. I think he probably goes all the way back to the SMU days. He was, I think it's an Italian last name. I think it was Cuomo or something very, very similar to that, who wrote papers on how important uh, the performing arts specifically, that was his thing, were with children. And you talked about pathways, that there was less anxiety with these kids, less depression. There was, they were more disciplined, but not in, Johnny, put that down kind of thing. They were very much more self-disciplined. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the self-actualization of that's all people really want. I mean, that's the highest need, is self-actualization. And if you can do it performing either for yourself or performing in front of other people, I mean, what a great way to go. I mean, my mother was a club singer, and in the 50s and 60s, and she had left my father, so she was a single mother struggling trying to get that going. She did American standards, but her passion was fado, which is the traditional
oh yeah, yeah.
Portuguese singing, and took lessons in the whole 9 yards. And she was never more alive than when she was on stage. And it's the pain. She's 95, and the pain is still there of not having had that, that wondering, where's the ceiling? Where's the ceiling to this? She's happy that she has memories, but yeah, it's a funny thing. If I was to, I'm gonna use one of my infamous Barbara Walter questions. If I was to give you a magic wand, but you only had one wish, what would you do with that magic wand?
You're gonna hate me.
Make me go away.
No, man. I want what everybody else wants, man. I
Uh-huh.
want world peace. I don't want to see people sick from pandemics. I want to see everybody just loving life, because the more they love life, the more music we can play and listen to. And, I think the world will be a better place. Um, I could be selfish and, wave that wand in the wrong direction. So I couldn't imagine anything else. That's what I would do with that wand.
It's so true. I saw a post. I didn't get the gentleman's name. Yo-Yo Ma did a post. Did you see it?
No.
A cello player in the middle of this destruction,
Oh,
playing Beethoven, one of his pieces, in the middle of this mess. And then if you think too to the death camps of the Nazis, you know, they had these phenomenal orchestras to lull people into the, you know, but music is really, really super powerful. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we need more music, more peace, I think, is what it all comes down to.
I have a friend who is from, he's probably going to kill me if I get this wrong, Bulgaria.
Mhm.
And there was a war going on when he was growing up, and him and his father played violin. And he has recordings of him and his dad playing violin in the room, in the living room,
Mhm.
while bombs were just exploding outside. But they continued to play music. They both got out alive, and they both have amazing lives. So, I mean, they used music to get through that moment, and without music, how would they ever get through that moment? And, you know, same thing, you know, I hear this all the time. Like, you know, there's some bands that we grew up with listening to, and I'm sure you can relate to the same, that, like, you know, my friends will say, man, that band got me through high school. I would have never made it if it wasn't for listening to this band all the time, you know?
Mhm.
So, it is very powerful. And I am going to look for that post.
Okay.
I think, you know, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Todd, this has been fantastic. This is one of those conversations that, and I tell people, you know, many times, this is not a one and done. You know, this is just a page. It could be just a chapter out of what everybody wants to know about you and what you do, or a page, or you know, or an entire book. But we'll never know. You know, so if we have the opportunity to come back and you know, have you come back and talk about not so much your business, which is not a bad thing, but talk about what you know about, you know, musicians and music in Fall River as a performing musician, because there are so many people, like, you know, Dave Nadine, for example. He was everywhere in Fall River. He's a piano player. He was a lounge player, and he, you know, typical guy, had all the great jokes, never broke a sweat. He was in every function you'd ever go to in the Fall River area, greater Fall River area. And I don't know if he's passed. I'm assuming he has. He was at least a couple, 20 years older than I was. But I think, okay, there's a memorial to him? Where, you know, other than his family, what is left of him?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's an African proverb that says when an elder dies, a library burns down. So this is entire library of incredible knowledge and experience. Thanks so much. We're going to wrap this up, folks. This was another great episode. I thank you so much for hanging in there and listening to us. And it's Ron Fortier once again with the In Focus podcast, brought to you by the Artist Index, and graciously sponsored by the folks at Heavenly Spirits Imports. Thanks so much. See you next time.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the Southcoast Artist Index podcast. To learn more about the Southcoast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram,